If you spent enough time watching a quiet hill, eventually you would understand why silence can be dangerous. It doesn't stay still. It bends and shifts, stretches and contracts, grows heavier with every passing minute until it feels like something alive, waiting to see who blinks first. Your job wasn't complex. It was not glamorous. It didn't involve heroics or shouting orders or charging through explosions. It was simple. Crawl to the ridge, set up behind the rocks, and watch the hill across the valley until someone told you to stop. You and Barrett went together, not because you were friends, but because the two of you moved quietly, carried your gear without complaining, and were patient enough to stare at the same patch of dirt for hours without losing your mind. On paper, you were recon. In reality, you were a pair of tired men with binoculars and a borrowed rifle scope, hoping the enemy would stay hidden until morning. The climb to the ridge was slow. The ground was frozen in the shadows but soft where the sun still reached. Dry grass whispered under your elbows as you crawled. A hawk circled overhead, searching for something alive in a place where too many things had died recently. The war had passed through these hills weeks ago, but it left behind a kind of stillness that didn't feel natural. Barrett reached the ridge first. He slid behind a pile of broken stones that once belonged to a farmhouse or wall or something no one remembered now. You slipped in next to him, the cold biting through your coat as soon as you stopped moving. For a long while, neither of you said anything. That was the rule. Talking wasn't banned, but it was discouraged. Words were weight. Weight drew attention. Attention got men killed. The hill across the valley was empty, or at least it pretended to be. No movement, no smoke, no shifting shadows. Just a slope covered in dry grass and a cluster of trees near the top that looked exactly the same every time you blinked. Too exactly. You raised the scope slowly, resting it on the stone. Through the glass, the hill became sharper, clearer, almost uncomfortably close. Every blade of grass, every notch of bark, every stone in the dirt seemed to wait for your eyes. Barrett finally whispered, "See anything?" "Nothing. That's the problem," he muttered. You understood. Hills rarely stay this quiet. Even an empty one has birds, insects, a breeze that stirs the branches. This one seemed frozen, like a painting pinned to the landscape. You scanned slowly, left to right, left to right, left to right. Dozens of passes. Nothing. Then you caught it. Not movement, not a figure, not something obvious. A single branch on the largest tree near the top, pointing in a direction that didn't match the wind. Barely noticeable, barely wrong. You whispered, "Top tree, right side, third branch." Barrett lifted his binoculars. "Got it." He went still, too still. You asked, "What do you see?" He said, "A mistake." The words tightened something deep in your chest. Hidden positions weren't unusual. Camouflage wasn't unusual, but mistakes were rare. The men across that valley were disciplined, patient, and careful. If something was wrong in their setup, it meant one of two things. Either they were exhausted, or they wanted to be found. Hours passed. The sun dipped lower. Shadows stretched long and thin across the valley. Barrett drifted in and out of small, quiet dozing, the kind where a man's eyes close for 10 seconds and snap open like he's falling. You stayed awake. Something in the back of your skull wouldn't let you rest. You stared at that same branch again and again. Nothing changed. Then you saw it. A flicker of light. Faint. Quick. Like sun on metal. Someone had adjusted their rifle. Slowly. Patiently. Confident you weren't watching closely enough to catch it. Your breath stopped. You whispered, "They've got a shooter." Barrett blinked himself awake. "Where?" You guided him. Slow. Controlled. barely moving your fingers. He found it. He swore under his breath. But it wasn't one shooter. It was two, then three, then four. Placed perfectly, hidden too well, waiting. Not for you, not for your squad, for someone else. A unit that hadn't arrived yet, or an incoming patrol that didn't know what waited for them. It wasn't an ambush for you, but you were the ones who found it. "What do we do?" Barrett whispered. "You should have gone back. That was the rule. Spot, report, retreat." But retreat meant making noise. Retreat meant moving downhill fast. Retreat meant someone on that hill might see you. And if they did, the valley would turn red in seconds. "We stay," you said. Barrett stared at you. "All night?" You nodded. Evening faded into darkness. The hill grew dim, but not empty. The hidden figures became suggestion and shadow, their rifle barrels tiny threads of silver whenever the moon broke through the clouds. Your legs cramped, your elbows ached, your eyes burned, but you didn't close them. At some point after midnight, Barrett whispered, "Why us?" You didn't answer, not because you didn't know, but because the truth was the kind of thing that sticks to a man's bones for the rest of his life. Because sometimes war chooses its quietest men to witness the worst parts. Just before dawn, the enemy began to move, quick, precise motions, not panic, but readiness. They weren't settling in, they were preparing to leave. The ambush never happened. Someone warned them. Someone told them the patrol wasn't coming, or someone told them you were watching. It didn't matter which. By the time the sun climbed high enough to warm your hands, the hill was empty again. Not silent, empty. No branches bent wrong, no metal glinted, no shadows lingered. Barrett exhaled. It sounded like relief and dread mixed together. "What do we tell them?" he asked. "The truth," you said. But you both knew the truth wasn't the real question. The real question was simple. Why had the enemy broken down an ambush so perfectly set up after hours of waiting for no visible reason? Someone on that hill looked across the valley and decided you had been allowed to watch long enough.